That's all right.
Okay. I want to ask you about Trevor Wilson. He's been really kind of a good deep threat for you guys as far as being able to take some shots downfield and create some big plays. Did you always kind of envision him as being that type of receiver? Obviously, you guys recruited him to Buffalo before he came here.
Yeah, he showed some of those signs last year. Be able to, create separation and also track and make big plays. So some guys can run and then making those plays like he has been impressive. But yeah, from the time he arrived on campus back in Buffalo, we thought he was going to be that type of guy with that type of speed.
How much do you need someone on your offense to give you that
Oh,
element?
absolutely. You can see that in this conference a lot in college football today. You got to be able to take some vertical throws and create big plays. And he's one of those guys. I think we still have a couple other guys that have the same ability, and we've got to find the time to continue to develop that and then take those shots in the game as well.
You guys have been fairly aggressive on fourth downs this season. What do you like about that approach?
Yeah, somebody sent me something last night. What are we like? Yeah, or something. But like all the teams in the country were like in the top 5 or something. Again, it's part of the analytical game. Again, possessions are important in college football today more than ever. Hanging on to the ball and trying to keep our defense off the field. Now, we'd like to be a little more successful than we have in those, but time, score, all those different things, momentum are going to play a part of that. And we're going to continue to be aggressive and have faith in, our offense. And I have confidence in Andy and what we're going to do there. And, to continue to be aggressive. And sometimes, again, that, I always give Andy, usually give Andy a yardage range or something, just like we do with field goal range and certain times about where we need to be, because that can play a big part into the third down call as well, even the second down call on what we want to get to be able to get a first down. So, we've been operating that way now for a few years, and I guess the first year we kind of went to some of this and look at some of the analytics and things like that. I think I went for more fourth downs in the first game of the season that year than I did my whole career. And it kind of changed my way of thinking.
I'm assuming you guys are just going to maintain that approach. I mean, you're not going to change based on what the results have been so far.
Yeah, I mean, you have to, as we continue to develop and things, and a lot of times it could be momentum in the game. Score the game a little different sometimes, but yeah, we're going to stay that and how we're playing that game will play a big part. But yeah, if it's not going to change.
With OJ Burrows, how do you feel like he's kind of progressed as this season has gone along?
He's an excellent player. He's got as good ball skills and anticipation skills, I should say, and having a feel for things of anybody in our program or right there with anybody. He's a talented young player. I think he's got an extremely bright future, and he'll continue to play a lot this year. As we continue to talk to OJ, strength and development and size is going to continue when you go through a physical conference year. And I'm sure he's going to obtain that as we go through it as well. And I know Coach Gildersleeve's really excited with him and others about, where this thing, goes after the first of the year and getting a full year of development with him and things like that.
He said you call him Omar sometimes.
He told you that?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What's his real name?
All right.
So, I mean, I didn't make up a new name for him or anything. I mean, so yeah, I don't know if he likes that. I kind of, I talked to him about his body weight and stuff. And so I tease him. I said, I'll call him Omar until he puts on 10 pounds and stuff. But it's a good thing. Hopefully, it's we kid because we care and things like that. But yeah.
Hey, Lance, you just mentioned the kind of timeline with Matt and the first of the year and all that. Do you break this thing down as a first half, second half while you're in season now? I mean, do you look at it that way, or is it still one big picture?
You know, it's still big. You want to go in phases. You're non-conference year, but of course we had a conference game kind of sandwiched in there, and where we want. But I think we're getting obviously to the halfway point of games played this week, and you're starting to get an idea of the development. And everybody can be slightly different, especially your younger players. You know, I thought actually in the game notes that Texas Tech provides of career starts and starts at other places, I thought was very. I mean, so I asked Daniel Burke to do that for us, and and kind of look, and then I kind of see how young we are in career starts, let alone that. So then you start looking at it as, yeah, we look at it as far as development, and we look at it each and every week, whether it be through nutritional needs and or how they go through that area, or strength that Matt will talk about, or where we're at, or then we look at some younger players that you can see through time and things that they're getting better. Shad Dabney's one of those. Edwin White are a couple of young secondary players we talked about. OJ, we see guys like that getting better weekly. Stephen McBride's a guy. Lawrence Arnold's has had those moments. We've talked a lot about Devin Neal. Bryce Cable is a guy that continues here. So there's you evaluate each and every week, but as we continue to look at this roster and the roster for the future, we want to keep hitting those benchmarks. But again, the time frame of being here, building those relationships, evaluating those, of course, the strength coach is going, man, I can't wait till, when we fully get to see it, because, from Matt Gildersleeve's perspective is now he's watched us, and he'll continue to evaluate that as we continue through this conference season of where we're at, where we really need to improve, how we line up against other people just physically, and continue to do that. So it's an everyday thing in our program, but to kind of look at it, I think, this last week gave us a lot more opportunity to do that.
Yeah, just the other one. How do they look right now? Refreshed? These guys seem to be ready to jump back in.
Yeah, you could see it probably mentally, and now there's a fall break going on, and there's not school today or yesterday, so mentally for some of that. But I also could tell Sunday night when we practiced that after not being on the field since Thursday, they had Friday off. They were with Matt on Saturday, and then we pushed practice back into the evening. I thought you could see, you can see some freshness in them and things. And a beautiful day today for practice. It's we're probably going to lose some of those as we move through things. So I think they embrace that, and I'm sure they're going to be excited for kickoff.
There was talk last week of just being able to install things that you weren't necessarily able to get to during fall camp. How much do you feel like you really were able to get to? Like, do you feel like you made up a significant amount of time, or because it's still during the season, maybe not as much as you would have liked to?
We were able to get some things in that we hadn't really had time that I thought were good, especially offensively. Regroup. But again, we're at a point, and again, we go back to a lot of the same things we talk about on a weekly basis here, that again, to continue to build and gain confidence, you have to keep repeating things that you're doing and correcting and giving them confidence and executing. And it's not just, hey, let's scratch up a bunch of new plays or a bunch of new schemes, because we have to get better. So we're continue to look for balance in what we're doing, to give enough looks on both sides of the ball, but also build confidence in execution.
Hey, Lance, whether it's Trevor Wilson or Jason Bean or Rich Miller, a lot of the guys that have played well for you this year have been guys that came up from a lower level and then came here. I just wondered kind of what you think of the opportunity for guys who could transfer in, play right away, and potentially the opportunity they could have here at Kansas.
Well, I think the guys that you mentioned have played extremely well for us. I don't know if I'm answering exactly right, so you could if I'm not, follow up, but I think there's a lot to be said about players that, whether it be from a group of 5 school or FCS or whatever, you see it each and every year across the country, that there's probably that extra motivation to prove that they can do it in their approach. And there's other guys, as we know, we've been talking a lot about development of players, and players develop later. And sometimes, in recruiting, it keeps speeding up and commitments are taken and guys are later developers in high school, and then their game kind of keeps elevating more. And so I think you'll continue to see that probably now with the one-time transfer rule and the availability for guys to relocate, after enrolling in school number one.
Can you give us a few selling points of what you try to
Well,
tell people?
I think the one thing that became very apparent to us here, I say selling point is kind of interesting, but I just, when you're coaching at the group of 5 level, you talk about the FBS experience and a chance to maybe play a game or two in a bigger environment, obviously stadiums and that. But the number one thing that quickly resonated with myself is resources. It's night and day, the resources that are available at the Power 5 level, what we have at the University of Kansas and staffing, budget. But when I say that, that's academic support, that's nutritional support, that's weight room, player development off the field, for, whether it be trainers, doctors, everything, it's magnified, and there's more people, and the player to other person ratio is significantly lower, so that's more hands-on. And point being, we have, across the board, you're allowed 5 strength coaches, 1 head strength coach, 4 assistants. Mid-American Conference, you might have 1 assistant and 1 head, maybe 2. Well, your player to coach ratio in the weight room for coaching, for safety, and then personal development of eyes and motivation is just significant. And I could go on and on, whether it be through nutrition, all those other areas that when you say selling, is like, if we talk is just for a student athlete to have the opportunity to maximize their personal development, you can see the difference, in my opinion.
Okay, we'll go to Zoom. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Lance, I was just looking over some of the notes and saw that on the good side of penalties, you guys are top 10, top 5 in some categories. I mean, can you look at that as progress and discipline?
Yes, I think so. That I always say on those type of things, John, it's maybe what some of you that have maybe have covered this program for a while could maybe say. I think I've stated where maybe our opponents have talked about that, of maybe what they see, but that part of the things I've been satisfied and see us that way. And I look at a lot of those things within discipline and our daily activity in our program, but yeah, on game day and what we're doing and hopefully executing, that has probably been one of the positives.
Yeah. One other thing on the offensive line, I saw that after the 6 sacks in Coastal Carolina, there's only been 1 sack given up since then. Just talk about the performance and improvement there.
Yeah, and I think I think we've been playing better up front. I think both our tackles have improved immensely. I feel more comfortable. I think I talked a little bit about Robostic last week and just I just noticed a difference in his daily approach to things and his comfort level with Coach Fuchs and really our offense and a young player like Bryce Cable, who continues to get better each and every week. Michael Ford, as a redshirt freshman, hadn't played in a college game until he got here. And I know, we've talked about the guys that maybe transferred from Buffalo or other places, but I think the one thing about, it's almost similar, but different of when I say sometimes I looked at our roster and, sometimes I lump guys together. And I shouldn't do that because I don't, one guy's been here for 6 months and the other's been here almost for 6 years. And you can't do that. And the same thing I think goes with maybe that group of guys that came from Buffalo, is that Michael Ford is not Mike Nowitzki as far as reps and opportunities, especially during a COVID year in which in which he redshirted. So, he keeps getting better. And of course, then even Malik is somebody that's gone through a lot of different systems. So to see them get better, I think Andy's and the offensive staff have done a good job of continually finding ways to get rid of the ball quickly and do things so holistically. I think that group continues to get better, but we needed to equate to more points on the board as well.
And against Texas Tech, what have you seen from them on film so far?
Well, again, another quality opponent. I understand. In fact, Daniel was just telling me that we've had some really, really good matchups with them of late. But this is a team that has some depth because they've battled some injuries, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and continue to put up a lot of points. Played some other quality conference opponents. Very multiple in what they do and the looks they give you on both sides of the ball. And again, that'll be the challenge, especially on their defense of what they give you. Receivers that can stretch the field, running backs that create big plays. They've been explosive on and through the air and on the ground. So another huge challenge for us. 3-man front, 3 big bodies. That's one thing we try to find a way to simulate a little better today is finding bigger bodies that are going to, line up over our tackles in the defensive line. A lot of different looks that when you in those 3-man fronts, they can bring pressure from. So again, communication, execution will be key.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.